be presenting with this group is bystander intervention, or what we like to call being a bystander. And one of the biggest ways to stop sexual assault is by intervening in a situation that looks unsafe. So I do want to say that before we dive into it, that throughout our to be able to have a conversation with you guys. So I just wanted to disclose that at the very beginning. And throughout this presentation, we're going to go over all the ways that it's possible to be a bystander.
Okay, so being a bystander is essentially the complete opposite of what, or being the bystander intervention is essentially what you want to do. Okay, the bro code is something. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Sorry, we're a little like that pause in between was like a little long. He's talking about, explain to them what bro code is, because a lot of them may not know what bro code is.
Okay, so essentially bro code is when you see your buddy doing a suspicious activity and you turn the blind eye. Okay, BAEcode is going to turn bro code upside down. BAEcode is doing the complete opposite. It's seeing a situation as a little sketchy and stepping in, doing something. You don't have to be confrontational, but just doing whatever you can to step in and stop that situation from getting even worse.
Yeah, and we're going to get into all the ways to be a bystander, the things to think about before intervening in a situation. We're going to break all of that down, as well as talk about our personal experiences with being an active bystander. So that brings us to the next slide. So,
what is bystander intervention? Bystander intervention is the idea that we can all step in to help prevent violence, harassment, or abuse. And we believe that stepping in doesn't have to be aggressive or confrontational. And that could just be a simple distraction, getting somebody away from a situation that is bad or a little sketchy.
I should also mention that I know I mentioned before that these are my younger brothers, but this is also not their first rodeo. Like I mentioned before, I'm a survivor, and they've been very much a part of being advocates for survivors, and have spoken with me a couple times. So we're all super excited to be talking about this issue with you, because they have some experiences, of course, that they want to share. And we hope that you guys, again, feel free to share experiences in the chat box as well, so we can chat about that.
Believe it or not, many times people don't intervene. It's natural to not know what to do. But if one person gets involved, others are likely to get involved as well.
And that kind of brings us back to that idea where there's been many studies where there have been a lot of people witness something bad happen, and they don't do anything because they think someone else is going to do it. So that's one of the issues around why people don't step in. And a bystander is present in about 30% of cases of rape, threat of rape, or unwanted sexual contact. So we want to eliminate that. We want people to feel like they have the resources and education and knowledge to be able to step in when they see something sketchy. And so we're going to break down a lot of that and what a lot of that looks like.
So BAEcode. Step 1, watch out for the safety of everyone and not just your friends. And step 2, always intervene if you notice something sketchy. Like I said, don't just be like everybody said, don't just be a bystander and watch something go down that's not right. Always act. Step 3, don't send unrequested nude photos. If you're under the age of 18, that is illegal. And
the distribution of child pornography.
Yeah. Step 4, don't pressure someone to send nudes or share them without consent.
It's a little bit of what we went over in the last presentation. Just a little refresher. So then step 5, never pressure someone to do something sexually. Always get enthusiastic consent on sexual activity. That's where we go back to that acronym, MOVES. We talk about this a lot. MOVES stands for M, mutual, O, ongoing, V, verbal, E, enthusiastic, S, sober. So it's a good way to remember what it means to get consent. Step 7, be aware of people who have been drinking and try to make sure they get home safely. And step 8, change the conversation away from sexist or negative talk about people. These are all active ways that you can contribute to BAEcode.
And going off of always getting enthusiastic consent on sexual activity, one thing we always relay to our guys at the fraternity is ask the question, is it okay if we do it? It sounds kind of funny and it's a
little odd.
It's a little odd.
It could be a little odd, but it could not be.
It's important. It's important to set the tone and make sure that both sides are consensual.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point because a lot of people may think it could be awkward, like Jack said, but it's so much more important to get that verbal consent going back to moves than to just assume. Never want to do that.
Okay, so how to be a bystander. First, look out. Anyone can be a bystander. Just be aware and prepared. For example, if you're at a house party, just be cautious of your surroundings. Make sure everyone's having a good time. Look out for your friends. Just be aware. Second, check in. If you see something that doesn't look or feel right, trust your gut and check in. For this one, if you see something that just doesn't feel right, go find a friend, go find someone you trust, an adult. Go make sure that someone knows of this situation. Don't be scared if it doesn't look right. Go find someone. Distract. Once you identify a situation, try and create a distraction. This could be if you see one of your girlfriends getting harassed by some guy, you could go up to her and ask her to take a selfie or ask her, hey, I need to talk to you privately about something important. Fourth, call out. Most people will stop their behavior once they are called out. If you call out someone who is making a fool of themselves or is doing something inappropriately, they will almost instantly stop. And that's a fact.
And you can go about that in a non-aggressive way. That doesn't mean you need to go up to them and start throwing hands.
Yeah, no, for sure. For example, a couple months ago, we were having a little get-together at our house. And one of our pledges brought one of his friends who was not a member of our fraternity. And he happened to grope one of our close girlfriends. And those girlfriends came up to me because they know I'm the president. They told me about it. So I went up to this kid very calmly and told him, hey, look, I heard that you were inappropriate to our friends, so I'm going to need you to leave. And this kid actually took a step forward and he put his hand on me, not in an aggressive way, but he said, look, don't worry about it. It's a misunderstanding. And then so I then took a step forward, still very calm, and I said, look, you have two options. You can either leave peacefully or we will remove you. And just by, I wasn't aggressive. I was very calm, but I was stern. And I looked behind my back and every single one of my boys were ready to throw this kid out if he didn't leave. And that's kind of the tone you get to set by calling someone out.
I feel like that's a good point also to the fact that if you are going to call someone out, it's good to have a friend with you or someone you trust to be there, just in case something goes south. So I think that's a good point.
100%. Lastly, get help. If the situation gets so bad that you're a little scared or intimidating, don't feel bad for going to find an adult or someone who's older or call the police. When someone's life's in serious danger, don't let that occur because you didn't do something.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to do that. Wait. Oh, sorry, guys. I just want to pull up real quick the participants thing so I can see everyone. So we can do a poll.
Drag it off.
What?
Drag it off the top. from the side.
Oh, there it is. Manage participants. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Okay. There we go. And again, please feel free. I know we could be going a little fast. But please feel free to questions that you may have had. Here, let me ask you this. Have you or someone you know seen something sketchy at a party or anywhere? And if so I see people saying yes, they have. If you're comfortable, please feel free to chat an experience of someone or anything with the group.
Yeah, a situation that might have occurred.
Yeah. I see a lot of people have experienced this. And actually, when we go through this presentation, we're gonna kind of break in. Hi, Jasmine. I feel like Jasmine was part of our last session. But we're gonna put some situations and scenarios into perspective for you all, and do a little like poll and see like how you guys feel like you would react in one of these situations. So, and this is where I'm gonna really break down like what it means to be an active bystander. And there's a lot of things that go into this. It definitely starts with the idea of awareness, which is what we're doing now. We're making each other aware that being a bystander is important. That leads to action. Once you feel like you have the education to step in, you act. And what does that result in? Culture change. That's how we change the culture within our high schools, within our middle schools, within our colleges. And it all really comes down to the basis of consent. How do you know if a situation is sketchy? Well, you go back to consent. Does this situation look mutual? Is it ongoing? Is it sober? Is it enthusiastic? Is it voluntary? Is it revocable? So it's important to go back to consent before anything else. And all of these things really equal what it means to follow BAEcode. And we're really going to dive into this. Like, it's watching out for the safety of everyone, not just your friends. Always intervening if you see something sketchy. Don't send unrequested nude photos. Don't pressure someone to send nudes or share them without consent. Never pressure someone to do something sexually. Always get enthusiastic consent. Look out for people who have been drinking and help them get home safely, and change the conversation away from sexist or negative talk about people when it comes to this topic.
Before deciding to intervene, you should take into consideration, one is your safety. You want to be aware if the situation is turning so bad if you should get out or intervene. Your safety is very important. The safety of the target, if you intervene. Is she gonna endure more harm if you help, or are you actually gonna diffuse the situation? The anger, violence level of the harasser, you can easily tell if he's an aggressive type or is he what type of person he really is. Your confidence in de-escalating the situation. It's better to risk being wrong about a situation than passively witnessing harassment. Even if you see something that you're questionable about, make it known. Make sure someone also sees it too.
And like, I feel like that's when you ask. Like, it's always okay to like ask someone if they're okay. I just wanted to add that.
It's not about being a hero, putting yourself at risk, but it is about preventing sexual violence.
Mm-hmm. I thought, okay, yeah. No, so those are all really, really good points on to think about before you intervene in a situation, because your safety is also important, like Jack said.
And when it comes to whether or not to decide to intervene or not, when you do decide to intervene, your main goal is making sure that this person in the situation gets out of harm's way at the end of the day. That's the number one goal. Other than that, it has nothing to do with you or this person. It's just a matter of getting that individual out of harm's way.
Exactly. Does anyone have any questions so far? We'd love to chat with some of you and share experiences or thoughts or questions.
I got a question for you guys. How many of you have actually intervened in a situation, whether it be at school, at a party, anywhere?
Yeah, so how many of you so I also think it's important that I know that we've been using the term sketchy a lot. We should define what that can look like. So to me, sketchy situations I've seen, and we are gonna get into this more so, and I think it'd be cool if some of you shared what you think a sketchy situation looks like. Do you want to share one?
It's just something out of the ordinary, it's sketchy.
Yeah, it's
hard to define sketchy. That might be the California coming out in us. We do use this term a lot.
Yeah.
But you look a sketchy situation is one that's unsettling.
Yeah.
It's you're uncomfortable. It something's not right. All those.
Yeah,
it's sketchy.
Yeah, you can tell when someone looks uncomfortable or someone looks too drunk to really know what's going on. And they might not want someone to be on them. That's what can fall under sketchy. So
exactly what Dominic said. Dominique.
A person becomes super pushy on a person that is obviously uncomfortable. See,
right.
that's
a sketchy situation.
For sure. Leah says, I always say to trust your gut. If you get that feeling something isn't right, you are probably onto something. I totally agree with that. That's always true. Your instincts can help follow your gut feeling. And it also goes back to this statement. It's better to risk being wrong about a situation than literally shrug off by witnessing harassment. It's better to ask that person if they're okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people think when they see someone harassing the other person that it's not their problem, but it is your problem. I mean, as a bystander, it is your obligation to help someone who is in trouble.
Exactly.
Or just imagine if you were related to that person in some way. You don't want somebody related to you being put in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point for it. Imagine if that was your sister getting harassed, or if that was your girlfriend, or one of your close girlfriends, or one of your close best friend dude friends.
Yeah.
Guys get assaulted all the time.
Exactly. And we're gonna definitely go into that. How do you determine safety in these situations? So I feel there's a lot of different ways to determine safety in these situations. Definitely by acknowledging if this person is being very aggressive, physically, by what they're saying, by their body language. You can usually tell if you need to get an adult or call the police.
I guess it kind of depends on the anger and the violence level of the harasser. For example, if he's incredibly drunk and very aggressive, then the safety of the target and yourself
is at risk. So
it's just analyzing the situation and seeing what's the best way of making sure the individual gets out of harm's way.
Yeah, and it's again, you should not feel ashamed if you need to grab some friends for backup or get an adult's help. That is what you should do. You could be saving someone's life, literally. So these are all really good points. Cassie, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. She said, or he or she says, we as a community have the responsibility to provide a safe environment. 100% true. And it helps to think of these people as someone you're close to, but it's also good to remember that it shouldn't matter. These people are human beings. So, good. So I I think we hit the slide pretty hard. So, I guess I want to ask a question. Have you or someone you know ever been in a situation where you didn't know if you should intervene or not? You guys can answer in the poll. And that's there. So a lot of you have. I see that number going up and up and up. So then that's a great lead in to our next conversation. I do just want to say real quick that a lot of these graphics that you're seeing on here are our free educational graphics that you can find on our website and our social media that are free for you guys to share with your peers or talk about this with your family, friends, anyone. And they're really, really good at educating on this topic. This one's like, I feel like a little redundant to what we've talked about so far. So this kind of just outlines like what these things look like. So notice that something is going on. Look for unwanted touching. Listen for degrading language or obvious threats. Notice verbal cues and body language. Like I said in the last slide, when in doubt, ask a trusted person for help. So it's all that same stuff. And determine how you will help. Either distract, delegate, direct, delay. And we're going to kind of like, do you guys want to give an example for each of those? So like, I'll start. If you want to distract a situation, like Jack said earlier, you see one of your friends is being pursued very aggressively by the other person and they are both intoxicated. You want to ask your friend if they're okay. You grab them, you say, hey, so-and-so, let's take a Snapchat selfie. You pull them over, you ask them, hey, I see he's like really into you right now. Like, are you into this? Are you like okay with this? And they'll give you an answer. What about delegate?
Ford, you want to do this one? There you go.
Delegate, I feel like, is where you look at a situation and you determine, like we said before, whether you feel like you should step in or you should delegate it to someone who may have a better handling on it. Like Jack's example at his frat house. His girlfriend didn't feel comfortable like addressing the situation, so she came to Jack and Jack handled the situation. So I'd say that's an example of like delegating. I feel like direct goes kind of the same way. Delay can be like, can kind of go hand in hand with distract and just like getting your friend away to delay the situation and ask them if they're okay. I went kind of fast there, so if you have questions, definitely chat them. And these are some examples of ways that you can distract a situation. We'd love if you guys chatted some examples that we might be forgetting. But like we said, the Snapchat thing is a good distraction technique.
Or a selfie or snap time.
No, the next one.
But I also wanted to share an example. Sorry, I was just thinking about how you view a certain person. For example, let's just say someone, you know, is that person who is super outgoing with, you know, at parties or whatever, and that's like their normal thing if they go and do their thing with someone else. But nobody knows really
anyone's story
or what's behind it, or if they're actually comfortable with doing that, or if they're just doing it, you know, being pressured into doing it. And I think that's important to recognize.
Good. Yes. Kim said sending them a text to see if they want to get away. That's a great example. That's a great idea. Cassie said if it's a girl, you can offer a tampon. I have heard that from some of my classes. We are going to talk about that technique and actually show you a scene using that technique. Oh, and there Leah goes saying SafeBAE has a video series that shows examples of each of these, correct? And that is true. Not all of these, but a lot of them. And I'm going to play a scene of that towards the end of our presentation. Thank you for bringing that up, Leah. And Erica says, which is why it's so great to pull them aside, ask them if they are okay, a bit away so that they can answer honestly, 100%. So, covered that. So now we're going to do a little poll. So each of us are going to give you a scenario and we're going to ask you, would you step in? And you can answer in the poll yes or no. So Ford, go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, so someone, well, I just gave that analogy. So yes or no, if you know that this person is kind of really outgoing within the group and at a party and known as being promiscuous, would you step in or would you just think that's the normal for that person?
Like if you saw someone who's known for being promiscuous being taken off, maybe seems a little too drunk and is being taken off by someone, would you step in? We see a lot of you answering yes. That's great. The number's just going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, like what we said before, that would be a great scenario where you could go check in. If it's a person who is known to have that type of behavior, that's okay. But if that person looks like they've had a little too much to drink and they're still being carried off, it's your obligation to check in and see and make sure that she's okay.
Exactly.
Don't assume. Assuming is the worst possible thing that you can do.
Exactly. So my example, okay, so say you see a couple, you're in high school or whatever, and you're at a party and you see a couple that you know have been dating for a while, but one of them has clearly had too much to drink and doesn't seem like they're able to consent to anything, but you see the other person being like pretty like grabby and whatever and whatnot. Would you step in? This is a tough one. So a lot of you are saying yes. Correct answer.
Can't assume.
Yep. So tell them you're...
All right, I got a question for you guys. Let's say I got a question for you. Let's say you see a guy who has had a little too much to drink and he's kind of leaning up against the wall, and then you see a woman come up and is all over him, just pressing on him and tries to take him into the bathroom. Are you going to hop in?
Are you going to step in?
Are you going to step in, or will you proceed to let her take him into the bathroom?
That's an interesting one. A lot of you are saying yes again, which is the correct answer.
No, yeah, that is the correct answer. I'm not joking with you. Back in high school, one of my buddies, he had a little too much to drink. And so we sat him down on the couch and we had some guys looking out for him. But this random girl, I'm not joking, hopped on him and started trying to make out with him. And we were like, whoa. Like, you can't do that. Like, he is literally like he's
incoherent.
Like, what are you doing? It is weird how
it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. It literally goes hand in hand. And I was a little upset about it. I was like, that's not okay at all.
Yeah, you had the right to be upset. I think that's a really good example, because I think people automatically think when it comes to being a bystander that you're going to intervene on like a girl being taken advantage by a guy, but it's not always like that. Like Jack said, it could be a guy being taken advantage of by a girl. It could be a girl being taken advantage of by a girl. It could be a guy being taken advantage of a guy. It could be any type of gender fluid situation. This stuff happens to everyone, and it's important. It goes back to the fact that like it doesn't matter who it is. You need to make sure that person's okay. Does anyone have any questions so far on the topic of would you step in? Okay.
Or do you guys have any interesting examples of whether to step in or not.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because there are a ton of scenarios that happen where you won't
always know. Yeah,
you won't know what to do, and you'll have to come up with it on the fly,
mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah, that's true. That, like, if anyone wants to share any, like, experiences they've witnessed that, or someone else has witnessed that could be helpful to the group, like, definitely chat them. So I'm not going to give the full Game On video for you guys. I'm just going to skip to the tampon scene, but Game On was created by our team at SafeBAE, our media team at SafeBAE, and our BAE breakers all around the world on the idea of ways to step in to situations without being violent or aggressive. So the story of Game On follows our character Jamie. She's at a party and she has to get all of her friends out of these, like, sketchy situations, and she does it in non-confrontational, non-aggressive ways. So I'm gonna skip to the tampon scene. I'm gonna play that for you guys real quick. And it's in, like, a video game, like, sequence. It's actually a really fun video. We're gonna link to this video in the chat so you guys can watch it on your own time. It's directed for high school and middle school students. So
it's an unbelievable short film. It's funny, it's engaging, you'll love it.
I don't know.
Hey, look, I know you're down to hook up.
Hey, Grace, found that tampon you've been asking me for. Didn't you say it was really heavy? Told me it was, like, super heavy. Yes. You should probably take me to the bathroom.
No, yeah, please.
I'm gonna take this out.
Oh, hey, Michelle.
So, okay, now how do I?
You can do the shot.
Oh, my bad. Okay, so that was one scene from Game On. There's a bunch of different scenes in here that kind of walk you through how to get out of these sketchy situations. We try to be real with you guys. Definitely comment thoughts. And Jail has linked to the BAEcode page where you can get a lot of this information, so definitely feel free to check that out. And we're going to wrap up this presentation with how to be a bystander online. So much social interaction happens online, and a lot of people don't realize that you can be an active bystander online just as much as you can be one in person. And we have another great PSA called Quit This Shiz. And it was all based on the idea that our viewers and our supporters would take a pledge to not talk shiz on survivors of sexual assault on the internet. So I don't have time to play it right now, but Shale's also going to link out to that page on our website so you can fully watch it and take the pledge to not talk badly about survivors of sexual assault online. But it also goes down to the fact that you may see someone, it may not always be, like, I think we can all say we've seen bullying and definitely bullying of sexual assault survivors online, or, like, you know, any survivors. And we figured a great way to combat that would be using gifts for good. So we made the hashtag gifts for good, and we have a full gift library, which Shale is also going to link out to on Tenor. And there's a bunch of gifts, like this one of Charlie. He says, I don't think being a bystander that doesn't do anything is okay. Like, if you see someone commenting some like a-hole remark on the internet, you can just respond with a gif and just mic drop. shut them down online. So that's the whole idea of this campaign. So that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation. We do want to quickly open up for questions. If there's any questions, please ask them now. So we'll give like 2 to 3 minutes for any questions. So type them right now. If you have any. Do you guys want to add any quick points? Oh, whoa. So going back to intervening when you see something sketchy, say you are at a party and you notice a couple goes off and you know they are both under the influence. You check in and they both say they are fine, but you know they are both drunk and shouldn't be engaging in any sexual activity. How do you suggest responding? Do you keep trying to intervene? That's a tough question. I think that if they're
both consenting.
Yeah, if they're both under the influence of some sort and you check in once and they say they're fine, I think a good question to ask is like, also like, are you coherent enough to be telling me you're fine? I feel like any person that's too incoherent is like, what? Too many words.
Yeah, like what Shale said, pretend to have an emergency and ask one of them to help you. A little distraction.
Yeah, there's, and I feel like, again, it goes back to that gut thing. Like, trust your gut. Like, how well do you know these people? Like,
your intuition.
Yeah, like, go with your gut. And, like, if you really feel like they're way too drunk to be participating and you just have a bad gut feeling about it, go back to that distraction technique. Those distraction techniques that we talked about. I think that's a great question, though. And I think, like, that's one of those situations that, like, would you step in? Like, it's one of those good questions. Thank you for bringing that to light and having us all think about that. Yeah, it's a good question. Any other questions? Couple more minutes. Where are these? While we're waiting for questions, okay. Cassie says, also, if someone tries to intervene and something happened anyway, it isn't the bystander's fault something happened. So if someone tries to intervene.
Well, that's true because you try to prevent the situation.
Yeah, like if you did everything you could, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I was going to say something about bystander guilt, too. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Definitely share thoughts on that while we have a couple minutes, like literally 2 minutes remaining. But also while I'm waiting for more people to chat, so going back, and to kind of touch on Dominic's perspective of bystander guilt, for people who don't know what that is, that's Dominique, sorry. That's when you look back and wish you had done something. And that's not always a good feeling. So rather than experiencing that, it's better to just step in. If you can, if it's safe, like we talked about. And while more people are chatting, I do want to remind you all to take our after surveys and also follow us on social media. We seriously have some really great content. And for anyone out there that wants to become a BAE breaker like Jack and Ford, and have a squad at your school and just really make a difference in this topic, like we encourage you to reach out to us. We'd love to have you a part of our team. You can do so on our website, SafeBAE.org. We really hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. We enjoyed talking with all of you and appreciate all your feedback and contributions to this presentation. Thank you for listening to us. I think you said it earlier, but I'd rather be wrong. Exactly, Kim.
Yeah.
Exactly true. But I think that is going to wrap up our session for tonight. Thank you again, and we hope you guys all have a great night. I think Ashley might come back on here to close us out. You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.